never share when legends lose their mane. Cut so deep, they ain't never the same. In the chair, no secrets remain.
We're here live at Boston Calling. We backstage in the Artist Campus with the master barber, Mr. Steve Villette.
Villette.
Villette. Mr. Villette, it's a little French. But we back here, man. We're talking about one of the best barbers in the world, if not the best. My man was giving me advice the other night. He said I need to grow out the beard. I got too much face. I feel it, you know what I mean? He was a nice way of calling me ugly, but it's all good. We live here, man. Say what up
man.
to the people, man.
What up, man? How are you?
So, yo, how long have you been doing this?
33 years. I've been a barber since 2000.
Yo, and what got you started doing it?
You know, I was always a short haircut kind of guy.
Yeah.
And I went to school for drafting, and actually the two worlds kind of enhance each other. So barbering and being a draftsman really helps you make straight lines, make circles. So I was really good at making straight lines and circles as a draftsman. But then I was also a fan of short haircuts. In fact, one of the drafting tricks or one of the exercises that they teach you in drafting is taking a full piece of paper and shading it like a fade with a pencil. So you have to fade a piece of paper from white to black with pens.
That's insane. So, but like your journey is crazy because I know a little bit about you.
Yep.
Like you were going from cutting hair out in Pittsfield, Mass, right?
Yeah.
Is that where you're originally from?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then and shout out to my man Curly who put this all together. You're his childhood barber, right?
Yeah, I've known Curly since he was 12 years old.
Yeah. So where do you go from the barbershop cutting Curly's hair, which ain't, I seen his hair, it's a little thin, so it ain't much. No, I'm joking. And then to being on the road and being a celebrity barber?
I mean, it all came from the education side, you know.
Yeah.
I really, I was always looking for the next thing. I was always wanting to learn, and I had 3 shops going, and I wanted to learn how to do this thing called the Royal Shave. And the Royal Shave is kind of like more of a spa treatment. Lavender hot towels, citrus cold towel at the end. But I really wanted to learn this, and I found a guy in Boston that was actually doing it at the Art of Shaving, and I started working with him just learning as a student. And then at the end of the class, I was like, now I want it, like the last piece of the class was for him to shave me, like just even with a beard, just shave around it. And I was like, okay. And at the end of that, I was like, well, now I want to shave you. And he was like, you want to shave me? Like, that's like, everybody's afraid to even watch them shave. I'm like, well, I want to know if I'm using the right amount of pressure and the hot towels are a certain way. And so then what happened was at the end of me shaving him, he stood up and he looks at me and goes, I get it now. He goes, you love it. I was like, yeah, I love it. He was like, I got a job for you. And I started working for him, doing shaves. I was working in New York City doing shaves and Boston doing shaves, like doing pop-up barbershops for the Art of Shaving. Because I'm a big, tall guy, I always wanted a real barber chair because of cutting hair and anything, even a salon chair is not tall enough. And you can't lay them back, you know? So I would show up with a real barber chair with a pickup truck and do it. And people were like, you know, this is awesome. And started doing Paul Rosenberg from Shady Records.
Oh, yeah. And Eminem's manager, right?
Eminem's manager,
Yep.
yeah. And Mark LaBelle, who is Eminem's tour manager, started doing those guys. Almost simultaneously started working with Pink on a movie.
Oh, my
where
God.
she plays a barber in New York City. And then just like kind of one thing after another, but never really like, you know, searching it out. Like it's all like they've come asking, you know, for me. We're doing asked to do a pop-up barbershop at Lollapalooza one year. I was there. We were on tour with Shady Records, and they asked us to do more other backstage people, and just kind of grew like organically.
So we're talking about Shady. We said Paul Rosenberg. What's up with Eminem? Did you ever cut Eminem's head?
I mean, there's an agreement that I can't really talk too much about that. But I do tour with Shady Records.
Okay, there we go. So let's just say wink, wink. Shady Records. How was your first tour, man? How was that? Were you with the whole crew? Were you on the bus with them and all that?
Nah, we don't. I mean, when we go out of the country, we tour with them. But a lot of the times, we just fly in. Like right now, I'm on tour with like 5 different bands. So I'll do Dave Matthews. I do Dave every like 10 to like 14 days. I do Shinedown every like 3 or 4 weeks. Aaron Lewis and Stain, again, like every 10 days, 2 weeks.
So how long have you been doing Dave Matthews Band, by the way?
Since 93.
Oh
so
my
about
God.
11 years, yeah.
That is so long.
Yeah.
So what made that connection? It was just they knew that you from being on tour with different artists, or?
No, it was the weirdest thing. So I was doing the X Games. We were doing the athletes for the X Games because one of the guys that worked for ESPN was at Lollapalooza one year and got a haircut backstage like this and was like, I want you to do my athletes at the X Games. So then we started doing the athletes at the X Games. Next thing you know, one of the at the X Games, Winter X Games in 2013 in Aspen, I happened to do in the athletes lounge. It's not only is it just the athletes, but it's any of like the VIP. So there's like football. It's ESPN. So there's football players and musicians, any like VIPs that don't want to be in the crowd that are back there. So it was actually Stefan Lazard, who was Dave's bass player, was visiting the X Games.
Wow.
I cut Stefan's hair, and then from Stefan, I started cutting some of the crew guys. And then one day, while I was doing it in Hartford, Connecticut, Dave was like, "What's up, man? Everybody's got a fucking haircut but me." And literally, that's how it started.
Well, man, honestly, and we talked a bit about it the other night when I first met you, like the haircut and that barbershop experience is so important. That trust you put in that person to touch your face, to get you right for the world. Because everyone's had a bad haircut before, man.
Right.
It is the fucking worst.
Yeah.
Pick your barber right and pick your tattoo artist right, by the way. Let me just add that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's just the access you can get. Because the people you're saying, like not a lot of people get to meet them or interact with them on such an intimate level.
Yeah, you know? and I think that's where it comes from. Like a lot of my stuff is not even like, I'm kind of like not even a big music fan. Kind of like a NPR geek kind of guy, you know, from my drafting and like from my like geeky side of my engineering world. I've always been a talk radio guy. It's kind of ironic that I work in the music industry, you know, but because of that, I think I'm not fanboy, you know, I'm not fanning out from anybody. It's more like, you know, I watch TV at home and my wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, the beard is terrible. Like, you know what I mean? Like, when you're in love with it, like I am with barbering, you see it everywhere. You know what I mean? You see bad stuff everywhere. And I think having that real conversation, I think they know that it's a genuine conversation.
Yeah, I remember when you told me, you were like, when I joked about it earlier, but you told me, like, seriously, you took me aside and be like, hey, man, you could look way better if you do this with your beard and you do that and grow it out. Yeah. And I'm taking this advice. I'm going to be all scruffy during my shows for the next couple months, but when it's done, it's going to look good. Yeah. And I'm going to thank you for that, too.
And it's going to be easier. I think that's where, you know, a lot of this stuff, because at this point now I've been working for Andis Clippers and Gibbs Grooming, like these brands as like a brand ambassador, educator. And I think it's like I've been kind of gifted these sets of tools, you know, to really know not only the tools but the products, and using products and tools as a grooming experience and sharing that experience with my friends and my customers, it's really easy. You know, growing up, guys don't share the kind of grooming tips like women do, and women are, you know, really into like, oh my God, your hair looks great. What'd you do? Guys just never have that conversation.
Never. It's like they usually have the same haircut for 30 years
Right.
and do nothing about it or even consider anything
Right.
else just because they sat down in the chair, a guy did whatever, and just they moved on with it.
Right.
You know, there's certain cultures that's very different. I'm Dominican. In case y'all didn't know, I say it every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
But like, it's a very important thing, the barber.
Right.
Like, we roast each other if your lineup's bad.
Yeah.
If your beard's looking scruffy, we're like,
Yeah.
what's wrong with you? And my dad, every time he sees me, even if I got a case, like, you need to get a haircut, man. Like,
Yeah.
every time. It's so
Right.
important. The conversations there are
Right.
important. And like you said, it's more about the experience.
Oh, yeah.
It's always about the experience.
I'm amazed at, like, you know, the confidence that we instill in people, knowing that your beard is right and your hair is right. I mean, it's you know, the difference between like walking into Target, picking out your own shirt and tie, and then go to Neiman Marcus. And when you go to Neiman Marcus, there's a guy working in the men's department that's like, oh my God, this is your color, and this is the color that, you know, you're winter or whatever you could be, and the confidence that you have wearing that shirt that he picked out in comparison to like one that you picked out for yourself.
Right.
It's like the next level, and I think that's where I see it now with my customers. They're like coming to me, like rarely do they even ask me like to do this. They're like, yeah, whatever you think. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like, yeah, okay. And literally, like, most of the guys that give us, like, at this level, you know, after 30-something years, when people ask me, like, you know, hey, what about this? I'm like, yeah, okay. That's not what I do. I'm not.
You ever had a crazy request? Like, hey, can you do this with my hair or something like that? And you're like, dude, you're about to go on in 10 minutes. Or,
Oh, yeah, I mean, not really as far as time-wise go. Not for guys that are like, you know, it's usually not a day of the show day that they're asking for anything crazy. Most of my guys are looking just to be cleaned up and like more like styled, you know what I mean? A lot of the guys I shave their head, they like it to be like that day.
yeah, so it looks nice and shiny.
Yeah, within like hours, you know, a shaved head lasts 24 hours, you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So it's more about like, I want it to be fresh when I walk out. A lot of the guys, it's just, like I said, I do them so often that it's always just kind of keeping them right, you know, keeping them right. But I'll tell you, it's funny when we are playing because the photographers are like, you know, I'm like, hey, you got a picture from that show? And they're like, yeah. They're easy to find because you could tell when you're there because the guys don't wear, like the drummer don't have a hat on. You know what I mean? And when we're not there, we show up and then they're like, oh, and they can tell. Even the music sometimes is like, they're like, man, everybody was just feeling great. And that's awesome for me to hear, you know what I mean? That I can actually influence the way that a famous band can sound, just being more like in tune with themselves because they feel good. I think that's where barbering, you know, really can come a long way. You know what I mean? I feel like just like what you're saying with the Dominican, it's definitely a thing that it's not shared with everybody. You know what I mean? So it's like one of those things where it's like I really think that culture and that experience can be shared more.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
And just think about where it's gotten you. You know what I mean? You have a successful business out of it, a crazy life. You know what I mean? You're going all over the world, basically cutting up people's hair that are like super famous and that people would kill just to be next to them. You know?
Yeah.
Who had the most groupies out of the people you've cut hair? Is there any times when you're like, what's wrong with these ladies or what's going on?
I mean,
And by the way, you helped them with that because you're making them look better.
yeah, but I mean, it's pretty funny because most of the guys that I tour with have been touring for 15, 20, 30 years, you know. It's there definitely is like European tours. There's a lot of people hanging outside trying to figure out what hotel we're in, that kind of stuff. I'm a little surprised sometimes by the amount of people, you know. Been in London one time where there's like chanting, you know what I mean? And it's like singing songs, and it's like, wow, it's almost like a little spooky. But yeah, I don't know. There's not really, can't really say there's anything like real groupie-ish, you know. There is like, you know, definitely super fans. I mean, I think the Dave Matthews fans are like I don't even know, like old college kids.
Yeah.
They were in college like in the 90s when Dave first like came out. So now it's, you know, 25 years later, 20 years later. And if you were in college, you know, 20, 25 years ago, you're probably pretty successful. So you go there and you're like, you know, these guys are wearing like golfing outfits and driving BMWs and Volvos and, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of crowd. It's amazing to see, like, even for like a set list or, you know, any of that stuff, people like, you know, freak out. One of the funnier things is when I do, because a lot of times I try to link up my customers, so it's like if Dave's playing here and then next night I could do Korn, I do Korn.
Have you ever met Biggie Smalls? Because he has a song with Korn, I think, or something. Like that. You seen that? That'd be pretty sick. If you don't mind me asking, man, like, what about in hip hop? Are you a constant barber for any particular artist, or are you touch anyone up, or?
Yeah, I mean, you know, and at a festival like these, we've done everybody. You know what I mean? I know a lot of times it's tour managers and management, you know. But at a festival like this, I mean, I'll go anywhere from like a Noah Khan to like, you know, Godsmack.
What a range.
Yeah. And again, like Dave Matthews to Korn.
That's
and
pretty
extreme. The same venue, different nights. Like 2 nights of Dave, and then a Korn show, right? And it is like it's like a complete different venue.
Yeah.
And I will have to say that at a Korn show or, you know, Five Finger Death Punch or, you know, any of those bands that are heavy, it is like the fans are like singing. They know every word and they're standing up, and it's like a religious experience almost. And the Dave shows are kind of like just like the music, you know what I mean? Like, hey, you know. And it's crazy to see the same venue sold out for a Korn show, and then the next night do Dave, the same thing. It's like,
and what's
I feel like you're a different place.
And the common denominator is they both need good haircuts. You know what I mean? So that brings you into like everywhere basically. And when I was hanging out with you guys, and you were talking about when a couple of your barbers, Devin was talking about the amount of access you have compared to like the normal person. He's like, nah, there's places VIPs get to, but there's places Steve gets to.
Yeah.
And it's like, how does it feel like or when did you realize that you had that sort of thing going on for yourself?
You know, it's amazing because a lot of these events like we do here, not only are we, you know, like we're obviously here, we're in the artist lounge, we're in the artist compound, their village, and we're here to do the artist, but we also do everybody else.
Right.
So we're also touching the you know, the
security.
managers or security or
got security
whatever.
right over there.
Yeah. So it's amazing to see, like, you know, where the doors open and just like what a haircut will do. Like, we'll do a haircut on somebody, and then next thing you know, you're getting, you know, come on over here, and there's bottles of liquor, and you know, we do the bartenders. That's always one of our first haircuts because, you know, then there'll be no bar left, and the next thing you know, we get like a box filled with ice, cups, mixers, and liquor, and delivered to our tent. And then we'll go to a stage, and the same guy that was, you know, in our chair 2 hours ago is working. He's the stage manager, and he's like, "Steve, come on up." And you know, the front of house wristbands is a big deal at some of these big festivals, and I'll know somebody, and they'll be like, "Oh, you know, you want to go to the front of house?" And I'll get 3 or 4, and you're in a crowd of, you know, at Lollapalooza, where you're in crowds are 50, 60,000 people, and there's 300 front of house passes, and you're one of those 300.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, dude, like, that's stuff people dream about, man. Like, just me being here with you was like, why? Somebody asked me earlier, how come you're back here? I said, because I know the guy cutting everyone's hair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, and then I really thought about it, even last night when I was thinking about it. I said, damn, the access, man. Because even the president needs a haircut, dude. You know?
Right. No, I've cut. Duval Patrick was a regular customer, and he was the, you know, governor for Massachusetts for years. Still a friend of mine. Gave his grandson his first haircut. It's like, and my customers not only are music, but you know, sports guys. You know, all like the X Games athletes are like, you know, I've been doing the X Games 11, 12. This will be my 12th year. They're like friends, and like some of these kids I've known since they were 10. Mm-hmm. Now they're 22. Like,
oh yeah, because they started early.
Yeah. No, you don't even see. There's a whole nother group of like developmental kids that are like young, like 7, 8 years old, that are there. They're not competing because they're literally not big enough weight wise to spin.
Gotcha.
So they need to like get bigger. Like they're just 8, 9 years old, and they have to be like, you know, at 14 or 15, just so you can fly that high, because you just don't have enough inertia. You're not big enough to fly out. Like you don't even think about that. Right. Like, and I can say like Chloe Kim's like one of the best snowboarding girls, like gold medal, multiple. And I can remember when she was like 10 years old, and they were like, she's gonna be amazing. And I was like, how do you know that? They're like, she just has the right, you know, has the right thing.
So that brings me to my next question, where I'm thinking about, you told me you came from education, and I've met a couple of barbers that said, oh, he taught me everything I know. How do you start with that, and who do you know? How do you can tell that you want to bring them along? Because what factors do you look for?
They come to me, you know what I mean? They're always like, it's kind of cool at an event like this because we're sponsored by like Andis Clippers and Gibbs Grooming, and so I use educators from that company, and they're from all over the country. You know, I got guys from Hilton Head, South Carolina, and Florida, and I live in Nashville, a Boston guy, and Western Mass guy, and a guy from Rhode Island, and all these different guys that are educators. And what's ironic is that there's 3 chairs, there's 6 barbers. So we always, somebody wants to take a break, and we always keep it full. These guys will give up taking a break to stand and watch another educator cut hair, because that's how they are. Like, they're always, what do I do? How do I get that? You know what I mean? It's always looking for that next thing, and it happens wherever we go, where you'll see these guys, because we don't ever work together. We're from all different parts of the country, so it's rare to get a group of guys, and they're like, you know, sharing tips on combs. I mean, the technology in a comb you would not even believe. And that's something that they can't teach you all this stuff in 1,000 hours of school. You learn it over time and what you get exposed to. And you'll see somebody with a comb with all different sized teeth. And there's actually, they measure combs in tension. So the closer the teeth are and the more teeth creates more tension. And that's a tool. So it's a wide space comb with low tension. It's a different thing. You can't even do some of the haircuts that we do. You need the comb because of the way that it like pulls and separates the hair. I mean, it's there's so much to it, and it's those kind of guys that are always looking for it who end up here with me.
And also, like, you got to think about it. Being on the road doing this sort of thing, you also need that. You need to be able to have that energy for it and that dedication for it. You know what I mean? Because it's not easy.
I got a lot of people that it's you need to have a little bit of both, you know what I mean? You have to have an interesting conversation with the customer. And a lot of it, as being other educators, it's really easy for us to have that education kind of custom. So we're having an educator conversation which I normally have with a barber or a hairstylist, but I'm having it with a customer.
Got you.
And guys are starving for that information, you know, anything. When I first started working with the art of shaving and I was teaching guys how to shave, they were just like, I mean, you would see guys with just their face was just destroyed by the way that they were shaving. And it was like, I don't know, I learned it from some kid in college, like dry shave, and I'm like, oh my God, like what? You know, and again, it goes back to that, like in the beginning, like how guys get their grooming information, you know? Women, girls have a very, like we were talking before, have a really, you know, conversation about I do this, I do that. Oh my God, Sally, your hair looks beautiful. I'm probably not going to say that like as a regular guy. I can because I'm a barber, but it's not something that guys have conversations about. You know what I mean? So anything that they pick up, they like follow. You know, I had a flake on my shirt when I was 15, so I've been using Head and Shoulders for 30 years. I'm like, oh my God, dude. Like, why? Like, oh, because I had dandruff in high school. I'm like, first of all, you probably never had dandruff. You probably just had dry skin. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's oh my God, like, what's going on? But I think that's where, you know, guys are starving for that information. And I really think, as the barber, especially the guys, I still do regular barbering in a regular shop in Lynchburg, Tennessee. I work for Jack Daniels.
Wait. You said a regular barbershop for who?
Jack Daniels.
Oh, there we go. So how's that regular? So tell me about that too, just so we get into that. How did that relationship form?
Doing Sturgis, working for Harley Davidson.
Okay, see, now we got to get into that real quick.
Yeah,
so Harley Davidson, you also work with Harley Davidson.
Yeah. So from the X Games, Harley Davidson was a sponsor of the X Games. They saw us back there. I met them. I said I do pop-up barbershops. And they were like, we want to do it at Sturgis. You know, put together a team of your guys and come to Sturgis. And we started doing Sturgis. And ironically, Harley Davidson is right next to the Indian display in Sturgis. And Indian is a sponsorship program with Jack Daniels. And the X Games athletes, they had dirt track motocross motorcycles for years. So we would do the athletes. So we would do the motorcycle, the racers. So we would cut the Harley Davidson guys and the guys that were on Team Indian. Just kind of one thing led to another. Introduced the Harley Davidson, did Sturgis. From Sturgis, I met the guys at Jack Daniels. Next thing you know, I'm doing pop-up barbershops in Lynchburg, Tennessee for Jack Daniels. And then just, it's always a strange,
like the universe, you know what I mean? Everything lines up kind of weirdly.
Yeah,
so
without a doubt. you know, I'm not a religious kind of guy, but I feel like I've been blessed to be in these opportunities, and I bring other people with me. Like I feel like I don't even bring the same guys to every event, because it's like how that would be selfish to be to not share this with, you know, multiple guys. I have like 57 guys scattered around the country that I take, and it's always adding a new guy and a new girl. I have a girl with me now that's here this weekend who's a student.
That's awesome.
Just observing, you know. I'm like looking to like show the other side, like this is what you can do with a pair of clippers. This is what you can do as a hair professional. Like this is where you can take this, you know. So I think that's really important to show, you know, all these guys, you know.
Yeah, man, because I mean, it gives you kind of something to look forward to. Like, look at where I'm at, and like my skill got me somewhere, you know, instead of just, you know, and we all seen him, like the guy who's never gonna move from that barbershop, and he has the same time. There's nothing wrong with that either, but you know, to take that to the next level and to be at something like this and cutting multiple people's hair you've never met, I think that's also throwing somebody right into the trenches and letting them really get educated, man. Because you get all different kind of hair, all different kind of things. Because I'm sure you've bumped into it, but you're like, are you sure you've done something like this?
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, you have no idea. I've done everything, right?
I'll tell you, the funniest thing was, so I'm originally from Pittsfield, Mass, Western Mass, right? And when I went to school for barbering, I was working at night as a bouncer. So at nighttime, I was bouncing. I worked at a couple different bars. And the guy that I stood next to was like a 300-pound black guy. So in Western Mass, this is 1990, 91, right?
It was like very little black people there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There wasn't, well, not only was it definitely that, but there was also like 0 black barbers,
Yeah.
right? So in order, if you were a black guy in Pittsfield, Mass, you would have to drive a half an hour to Albany, New York, or Springfield, right? So this black kid was my friend. Like, we had each other's back every single night. Stand at the door. We went to battle with whoever was in there all night. This guy, he was my friend. He was my guy. His name was Tony Brown. Tony, I learned how to cut Tony's hair when I went to barber school because he was my friend, right? And all night long, people would come into the bar and they'd be like, dude, why don't you call me? You'd be like, what are you talking about? It's like, got a haircut. You didn't tell me. I would have drove with you. Like, and he's like, oh, no, man, I didn't, like, Steve cut my hair. And they're like, Steve? Fucking,
Yeah.
Steve cut my hair. So this was while I was going to barber school. I graduated from barber school, and I had black customers, white customers, but then I also went to school in Holyoke, Mass, which has a huge Puerto Rican, like I don't even know what the percentage is, but a healthy section. And at barber school, I did Puerto Rican haircuts.
Which is all sorts of hair.
But the the way that you finish these haircuts is what really sets them apart. Like line up and eyebrows.
Yeah, super detailed.
Right. So at school, I'm learning how to do Puerto Rican haircuts and lineups and tapers. And then on my friends, I have black friends, I have white friends. I learned how to cut their hair. For the first, like, I don't know, probably 7, 8 years that I opened in 90, almost 10 years, I was the black barber in my town. and the Puerto Rican barber.
Which is super crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it got you prepared to do stuff like you're doing now, because think about the amount of artists here and the differences between them and their music and just their background and their culture. So I wanted to get into too as well about something that, like, you told me a story that involved a tour bus before. I kind of want to hear that story again.
Oh, you mean get a ride to the hotel? Yeah. So now it's like because I'm friends like these customers I've had for years, like Dave. So I was recently with Aaron Lewis, who's a country Aaron Lewis. He's also the lead singer in Stained. And we're recently on a tour, do a Stained tour, and we're at a festival in Columbus, Ohio. And everybody's like, you know, they open the roads up, all the lanes to leave. So I'm waiting for my Uber, and they're like, I'm like, yeah, the Uber can't get to me yet because all the traffic is leaving. And they're like, we're not leaving you here. I'm like, I'll be fine, man. Like, as soon as they get this push, I'm going to open the road back up. They're like, we ain't leaving you here, dude. Get in the bus. I get in the bus. They're like, we'll just drop you outside this ring and let you get in. And then I'm driving like 5 minutes. We get outside, and the bus driver's like, what hotel you at? He's like, just going to bring you home, right? So I'm at the, you know, Marriott, whatever, the, what was it, Columbus, Ohio airport, and I'm staying at the hotel, and the tour bus pulls up, and they give me a ride to the hotel in the tour bus.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Pulling up in a tour bus is probably the most pimp thing you can do for a ride. He's like, yeah. Because, that, I mean, like we were talking about earlier, that relationship's so close with your clients. Like, you're probably just casually friends with these people who are, like, seen as these ultra big stars.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You ever go to just have dinner with them or barbecues and stuff like that?
We just did, Dave Matthews and I are really close. We're 4 days apart in age. We have kids the same age. But I just got back from Mexico, and Dave does like a 4-day show, Playa, and was there, and it was kind of like last minute because I was almost going to go to Seattle for practice and cut Dave and Tim's hair, and then it was like all of a sudden it was like, well, let's have him go to Mexico. So I'm in Mexico, and before I went, I always heard these people talk about whatever you do, don't stay at this other resort. Make sure that they put you in this resort. And I was like, all right, you know. And so I'm getting there, and they're like, well, we're going to send you to this resort. And I was like, oh, that's the resort everybody warned me. Like, there's no, you got to go to the other resort for food, like breakfast, everything. They're like, it's just like a hotel, but you got to go to the resort. I was like, oh. So I get there, and they're like, just waiting for the voice coach, and you guys are riding because you guys are staying at the same resort. And I'm thinking to myself, this voice coach is Justin Timberlake's voice coach, Brandy Carlisle's voice coach, like SZA, like Timberlake.
The biggest people.
Yeah, he's their voice coach. So I'm like, oh, I'm not staying. We must be not at this resort that everybody's warning me about. We get in the thing. No, we're staying with Dave.
Oh.
At like this private little beach resort. Just with like family and like a couple like 30 friends and just us. And I was like, oh, well, that's like that tour bus story, but times 10. Because it's like me and the voice coach and Dave's personal trainer in like the townhouse next to Dave's like compound.
Wow.
And it was just like eating dinner every night on the ocean in this little cabana thing and drinking. The first night I was there, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. Dave's bartending. It's like, this is the craziest shit ever. It's like people that I know that are huge fans of Dave would be crying right now.
Oh, man, I can only imagine.
Yeah, and he's like bartending. He's like mixing drinks, and he's like he was a bartender, right? Once upon a time. He's kind of like behind it, and he's like smelling the mixers because they all look the same. Is this pineapple juice or orange juice? Right? He's like smelling them. He's mixing stuff together. And he mixes me a drink, and I was like, it's actually pretty good. He goes, try mine. I try his, it's like, shit, right? I'm like, Jesus. I'm like, it tastes like shit. He goes, I know. He goes, I'm glad you liked yours better. He's just like, he's like a funny, like he's a friend of mine. You know what I mean? It's like it's like you don't go in like, tour buses or any of that stuff. Like you become like part of the family, like the little tour family, and it's really like, it's a family. You know what I mean? Dave treats me like absolute gold. I really enjoy going to see him, and I text Dave Matthews. He texts me back quicker than my kids.
That's crazy, man. Well, that's awesome. Like I told you, like that relationship is so intimate, and it's one of the few intimate relationships that man has with another man a lot of the time, or with your barber in general, because you're training a lady, so who knows, right? And like just like that, he's like, you really just become genuine friends with them. Like I'm friends with my barber. I have his number too. Yeah, he doesn't text me back that quick. We'll talk about that later. But like, but it's still there, that relationship. I'll smoke some weed with my barber. I mean, we've smoked together, you know what I mean? We should be lighting up right now, to be honest with you. But it's that relationship that, is there anyone else that you're that close with other than Dave that's a regular client?
I mean, Aaron Lewis and I are really close. We're friends, you know what I mean? But it's part of that, like, getting a ride home, and even like, like the drummer from Korn, Ray, is a really good friend of mine. We both live in the Nashville area. I go to his house and cut his hair and his son's hair. I work with a bunch of songwriters in Nashville where they do like these songwriting events, and I'll go and cut everybody's hair. Brantley Gilbert cut his hair. Just you become like part of their family, and it's like just exactly what you're saying, touching their face and combing their hair, and it's really like, and now because I'm an educator for so many different products, they're like, wow, like, I'm like, use this and use that, and it actually, like, for Dave's band, right? So you have Dave, 57 years old, white guy. Tim Reynolds, who's like 62, little white guy. Buddy Strong, who's like 35-year-old black guy. Rashawn, another like 30-something-year-old black guy. And Stefan, who is like probably 45 years old, little white guy, but kind of like a styly kind of guy. So in that one band, if I wasn't the black barber in my town and the white barber in my town and the Puerto Rican barber, I couldn't even do that band.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is like set me apart from a lot of guys, where it's not that they wouldn't want to learn how to do those haircuts. It's more than doing one haircut. It's years and years of doing multiple.
Sometimes they don't get the chance.
Right, you just don't have the chance. And it's like, and until you actually are a black barber in a town where you're doing all, because the textures are so different. It's not just an afro. It's like, there's all different kinds of textures.
You got to do wavy hair. You got to line it up. You got to make it look certain way.
All those things are really like years and years of experience. So, and now with beards, guys were fucking up their hair forever. Now they're fucking up their beards. Like, like.
Yeah, we talked about
that.
We're gonna get that. We're gonna re-interview in like 4 months, and we'll talk about my beard again.
Yeah, but no,
it's important. Though.
It's important, and I think that not only is it and again, it gets back to the products. Like, guys are really skittish, like, about, even saying that they like use products. It's like, yeah, man, like, I'm like, hey, show me, I want to do this with my hair. I'm like, okay. The first question I ask them, I'm like, do you use products? Like, what do you use for products? Guys are like, oh, I don't use my products. I ain't gay. I'm like,
ridiculous.
Nobody said you're gay.
Insecurity, man.
Yeah, but I always get them because I'm like, I know you said you're not gay, but didn't you just show me pictures of like gay like models on your phone? Like, I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Just to fuck with them, but it's like the beard is the same thing. Like I want to grow this beard. I'm like, okay. You got to use products. Like it's you know, in order to have a beard of my length, you have to use products and like get it to the point where it doesn't break. So it's like conditioning it. So if you know, half an inch a month. So some of these pieces are 6-8 inches long, right? You know, think about it, half inch at a time. It would never grow this long if I didn't use the right products. It would just break. So a lot of guys are like, oh, I want to grow a big beard. I'm like, okay, use beard oil, beard balm, and brush it. And they're like, oh, no, I just want to grow it. I'm like, it's never gonna get as big as you are thinking.
Is there some famous musician or X Games player that you had to have the beard talk with them, and then later when you saw them, it worked?
Oh yeah, a lot of them. Yeah, and a lot of them are just like you know, like stuff that me and you were talking about, like the shape of your face. Mm-hmm. A lot of guys will get a beard trimmer for Christmas and like go crazy, and like I'm like, oh my god, like you did a lot. Like you really did a lot. Like you edged up everything, and they're always like, well, you know, this side was a little bit higher, so I pushed this side, and then this side was wrong. And it's like, you have to understand your customer and understand like how they get haircuts. I think the biggest mistake, a lot of barbers actually will do a haircut on somebody where it's like, hey, listen, I want a bald fade and I want this all lined up. And I'm like, okay, but when was your last haircut? And they're like, oh, like 6-8 weeks ago. I'm like, okay. So you're asking me for a haircut that lasts about 10 days. Right? So you want a bald fade with a line up and all this. No problem. I could do the haircut in my sleep. But you don't keep it up. Like, so in the course of, you know, 6 or 8 weeks until you get another haircut, your haircut looked good for 10 days. Even if you get a haircut every month, it only looked good for 10 days. So that means 20 days, it looked like you needed a haircut. So in the course of a year, you needed a haircut more than you had a haircut. Let's think about this. Like, I want my customers to look good until they see me again. So, unless you're coming to me every, you know, couple weeks, we got to think about the haircut. Because realistically, a number 2 with a square back and a little taper on the bottom will look still like that haircut in a month. Because a 2 is a quarter of an inch. Well, it's doubling it, and you know what I mean? It's still a little bit fuzzy, but it's aligned and it's still square, and then taper it in the back, it kind of grows in a little bit natural and still looks good. So a lot of the conversations I have with my guys are those kind of conversations where it's like, this is what you need for a product. And when you start getting into men with products, it's like every guy answers like the same thing. Like, well, I got gel at home. Like, that's their like go-to. Like, they have a thing of gel. It's probably like 5 years old. They had it, right? Then I'm like, I have to teach them. Ironically, this is the same conversation that I've had a lot with barbers, because barbers are guys, right? A lot of them, right? Well, they don't know the products. So a lot of the same conversations that I have now as an educator with other barbers they're still guys, and they still don't have a lot of education and products. And it's
Let's talk about your businesses too that you have. So is it Barber's Authority? Is that
Barber Authority? Yeah.
And what else?
Well, Sims was always my original name of my shop. Sims. It was actually the shop that I bought that was in business since the 30s. The guy's name was Simeon. which is like Simon in Italian. So his name was Simeon. And I kept the name because it had been there on this one corner in my hometown for all these years. So I just kept that name. But when I went to Barber Authority, what happened was when I started doing these events is I would always make everybody a Sims Barbershop shirt. And I noticed that they would wear it at the event because it was cool. But then they would never wear it like in their shop because if you're Joe from Joe's Barbershop, you can't really wear a Sims Barbershop shirt because now it's like kind of watering down your brand. So we came up with Barber Authority as like a group of like all encompassing like, and now Barber Authority is like a badge of honor that you can bring to any barbershop. Like this is, you know, I'm Joe and I own Joe's Barbershop, but actually I'm also a Barber Authority member. And that brings them up a notch. Instead of watering down their brand, it kind of adds a little, you know, punch to their brand. So it's important for those guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it's important for your own brand as well. You know what I mean? Because now it's like I can be in every barbershop instead of when that guy's just going out and wearing my shirt.
Right.
At Sims Bar, and Sims Barbershop, by the way, is pretty sick. It's in South Boston.
Yeah.
What's the Addy?
116 West Broadway.
West Broadway.
Yeah.
116 West Broadway. I got lined up the other day. Carlos took care of me.
Yeah.
And you said he did a good job. What do you think?
No, Carlos is great, and that's another, you know, younger kid's been a barber for like 4 or 5 years now. And again, we're taking somebody like him and working with Andis Clippers now. All of a sudden, we're able, because of events like this, to make sure he has all Andis tools. And then also working with Gibbs, we're also training him on the product side of it, because you want your haircuts to look really, you know, good. I mean, you saw the haircuts we were doing the other night at that event.
Let's talk about that event. That was super, because what you're doing is bringing a different experience to the barbershop life in a way. Right. Like, we did cuts and cannabis. Like, you see, we were rolling up. Shout out to Calabran and Laced. And shout out to Brave Free, all those guys. And shout out to Curly, because putting that together is a unique experience where you're experiencing different kinds of things while you're cutting hair, you're chopping it up, educating people, talking about smoking them up, getting cut up nice and tight, and like, you know, and it was such a good vibe. Can't wait till the next one. No. We're gonna make it a normal thing.
Yeah, it's a unique experience, and I've found this to be true with the same thing that happens with a band. You know, everybody, it's kind of like a locker room kind of experience where all these guys are sharing this kind of grooming kind of thing. Guys are like, oh, dude, look at you. Oh, you got your hair, this and that, but your beard is bright, and this and that. So it's a real unique thing to share with other guys. And in the barbershop, like, you know, that whole Dominican barbershop thing, I feel like that's part of like bringing that community and bringing it to the weed industry. It's really cool to see a bunch of guys who are weed industry guys go into a barbershop and getting cleaned up together and sharing that information, and just knowing like the confidence again that you get after that, like the confidence that comes out of it. And you know, guys walk around and they're like floating, they're like in la la land because of their hair, you know what I mean, or their beard, and they feel like it. And I think, again, and that's where it comes to be like a lot of this stuff with me, where it's like all of a sudden I'm doing, you know, they know I do Dave Matthews, so they don't, you know, or Aaron Lewis or whoever it could be, right? And they get a haircut from me and they're like, oh, man, like, obviously he knows what he's doing. He's doing these guys. And so you come from that world and you're bringing it into now Curly's world, you know what I mean? Bringing it into that weed industry. And for me, it's really powerful because then I get to really like share that with a new industry and a new group.
Because we need it, by the way. I love my weed industry people, but y'all need to start maintaining your haircuts a little more, fellas. Because you've seen the beards that you guys were touching up yesterday. It was amazing too to see like you were talking about those reactions, and I'm thinking back to that night, and it was funny. Every time someone got up there, like, man, you look great, and the smiles they got.
Yeah.
And you were like, holy crap, I feel like $1,000,000. I was making jokes. I was like, now you're ready to cheat on your wife.
Right.
You know what? I'm just.
No, but I'll tell you what, when I worked for Harley Davidson, right? My goal at Harley Davidson is 8 days long, 125 haircuts a day.
Oof.
It's 8 barbers, so divided by 8 salon, right? And they're not full like haircuts and beard trims because they want us to touch as many of the audience as possible. So we give them the opportunity to either do a beard trim or a haircut. Some of them just want their neck cleaned up, right? So, anyways, what happened was Harley Davidson, there's a big, huge tent. It's like a city block. There's all kinds of, they have like boot shine thing. They have chair massage. These guys are riding bikes to Sturgis, right? So they're like trying to take care of everybody when they get there. They do airbrush tattoos, and they do all these different things. And what happened was at the end, every night they have kiosks set up. Tell us what you liked about the experience. And the barbershop finished first out of all the experiences. And the deal is that any of the other stuff was like, not that it wasn't cool or they didn't appreciate it, but they left with something. I could give you a koozie or a pen, or I could give you something, a bandana that might live in my car for a year, You give this guy a haircut, they freak out. Especially a good haircut. Especially a haircut from like one of these guys that's an educator. Because now all of a sudden we taught him something. We taught him why wear your beard like this. It's not just because I think this would look good on you. I'm trying to enhance your face. The beard is supposed to enhance your face. So you teach a guy like some basic grooming tips, and they're like, oh, we've had Harley Davidson customers get a hold of Harley Davidson marketing and find out where the barber that cut their hair is, because it's the best haircut they ever had in their life. And their wife is emailing Harley Davidson saying, where's this guy? And they got a picture of him. And I'm like, oh, that guy's in Rhode Island. And they're like, okay, well, we're going to the bike competition in New York City, and we're going to make an appointment and go to Rhode Island. This guy's from Washington State going to get a haircut. And that's what Harley Davidson taught me. Harley Davidson, because of the amount of people that we got and having the kiosk and having a response to what was the conversation, having that response was a huge deal because, again, you're not going to get that, you don't ever hear the feedback like that. So Harley Davidson was kind of interesting to find out where we were. We didn't even know that there was numbers being I don't know. I was just there trying to do what I was trying to do. I had no idea that the crowd response would be so much. The only thing that beat us was the demo bikes. And obviously that's what people are there for.
Yeah.
Free demo bikes. So to finish above everything else and to be demos and the demo bike being the only thing that beat us, but then also having people reach back to get those haircut information, it was a big deal. Harley Davidson really taught me a lot, and I think that's where when we started doing Jack Daniels, because of the experience that I learned about what to do at Harley Davidson, sharing that experience with Jack Daniels and learning how to kind of track it, knowing what to do, kind of knowing, I can't do a total makeover on 100 guys. It's just not enough time. Let's get in there, clean them up, do a little beard trim, a little neck trim, kind of teach them something. Sometimes it's easy as just styling their hair because they don't know how to use, clay, or they don't know how to use these other products because they never were taught. So a lot of it is real basic styling and men's grooming as far as like beard wash. I'll tell you a funny story with me when I started using beard products, because I was that guy that just was like, I'll just grow a beard and want it to get long. And I was working for Andis Clippers. One of my friends from Andis Clippers took over to head the education for Gibbs Grooming. I went to a class and I was like kind of interested, but you know, it's work, you know. So he's like, I got a new job, like you can teach these classes. So I went there, started talking to them. They sent me home with a box of products because they want you to be an educator. So I get home and I start using the beard wash and the beard oil and the beard brush and the balm. And about 4 or 5 months later, I took a picture with a bunch of my barber friends, and literally my beard was like, whoosh. And I was like, oh, shit works. And it's literally doesn't break. Now I have to trim my beard because it literally just, I mean, I just cut off like 4 inches because
Wow.
It was like here, because it never breaks. It's that healthy, because usually what happens is guys are like, you know, ivory soap on their face and super hot water. And I mean, you can't wash, you know, you can only wash your hair so much before it just dries up and breaks. I mean, that's part of the reason with women why they wash their hair like once or twice a week. They're trying to get performance and length, all this other stuff, and they wash their hair in like almost cool water because they know like that's really trying not to do any damage, especially if they're going to be blow drying or curling iron or anything, which adds heat and dries out the hair. So they're really conscious of what they're doing and the products, you know, that they use to make sure that their hair stays healthy. It's a big deal.
So what I want to ask you too, because while you were talking, I was like, oh man, if that guy taught me something, I'd want to do a favor for him. Have you ever called in a favor to one of your celebrity friends, like, hey man, I know this sounds crazy, but can you do this my kid's birthday, or you brought your kid along to something?
Yeah, I mean, I think working with some of the talent, and you learn really quickly. It's amazing to see, because I get to see there's such a variety of camps, and like the Dave Matthews camp, or you know, the whole Shady Records camp, and you really learn how they do it. But it's really like, you know, even with your phone, like there's a lot of like I can't like even you can't even take your phone out because they don't want you taking a picture.
Because it makes them feel like they're not a normal human like you.
Right.
You know, they're like, what am I up for display?
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah. They don't even take a lot of places. There's no phones out, and I've learned really early on that, you know, there's a massage therapist that gets brought in, like a barber, or you know, whatever, and it's like you'll see them, and they're like, "Can I have a picture? Can I?" Oh, can you don't see him again.
Yeah, I mean, 'cause I don't blame
You'll
them either.
learn that, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, and sometimes I like feel bad for him. I'm like, oh my God, is she really doing this? Like, is she really gonna, you know? And these guys are like getting off a massage table, and they're like coming too because they just got an hour massage. They're like, they don't want to take a selfie. And I think you learn really early on. Like, I don't even ask them for like autographs or anything, only because you learn really quickly, like how, you know, so many people I feel like have asked them weird shit that it's like, and they'll talk to you. I'm cutting their hair like I'm their barber, you know what I mean? I hear the stories and I'm like, okay, well, I'm not.
So you learned quick, you adapted, like, all right,
No
that's
fucking
what I
way
don't
I'm
do.
gonna do that. You
So
know what I mean?
what if you didn't ask? Have you ever been given things, like, or what's like something crazy you've been gifted, maybe?
I have. You'll like this one. So we did a European tour with Shady Records, And we had a Christmas party at Shady Records, and they gave us all sneakers.
Ooh,
Right.
sick.
But it's Eminem Carhartt.
I know exactly what sneakers you're talking about. You have those still?
Yeah.
Man, you got some money.
Yeah,
They gave you a nice chunk, a nice
Yeah.
little investment.
yeah,
That's insane.
yeah.
So you do have like a collection of stuff you've been given and things like that too at the house?
Yeah, random like tour jackets, and we did a thing with 50 Cent when it was because Shady Records did 50's first record, so at the 10th anniversary, they made us all like varsity jackets for this event. So we have this crazy like varsity.
So you got a custom jacket for 50 Cent from
Yeah.
50 Cent.
Yeah,
Have you ever cut 50 Cent?
yeah,
Oh my God, yo, because we talked about 50 on the last High Street podcast because
Yeah.
I was just like, man, 50's the GOAT. Just because he
Yeah.
always wins, he's always in the right position, and he's been super famous and part of my life since he dropped.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
But
that
that
is,
was Shady Records.
yeah.
So
'Cause it's Shady.
that was Shady Records, and Paul Rosenberg is secret. Like, I mean, I feel like Marshall's success. Paul Rosenberg is genius. Like, I'm really amazed at just watching it from like my point of view and watching how the whole thing goes. This is like, we're talking like a long game, long game where, Paul's very strategic, and where Eminem, where you could hear like on ESPN, you could hear this song on this before like the football game. You play 30 seconds of Eminem. It's really like small little like pieces of that, and that's Paul Rosenberg, man. And Paul's sitting back in their relationship. Eminem used to crash on Paul's dorm room couch.
Yeah.
So that's long. I've been friends for a long time. It's more like almost like a father and son kind of a thing where, Paul really is, again, like, we're going to play this one. We're not going to play that one. We're going to play this festival. And then we're not going to do anything for 2 years, because by the time the offer we get in 2 years, it was like be the same if we played these 5 shows, because you don't play them. It's like, oh, okay. I can just play these 1 shows. You know what I mean?
Are you still in contact with Paul Rosenberg at
Yeah,
all? Or?
yeah.
Okay, when's the last time you cut his hair?
Oh, Paul, he's shaved his head.
Oh, shave his head.
But probably. I mean, we haven't been on tour since 19. But we did a Mom Spaghetti, and then it was also the 20th anniversary of 10 Mile, and that was not last winter, but the winter before that. But Paul has really been a great customer of mine, because Paul likes to get shaved like literally just before they walk out. I shave his head and trim his beard, like probably like within like 15 or 20 minutes of them going out. And obviously Paul's not on stage, but he just likes to be right, And I have those exact same conversations with Paul Rosenberg, and it's like that's where it's like I feel like if I don't share it, you know what I mean? Like, hey, Paul, use this, and here's a new pair of trimmers, and just do this, and you know what I mean? So those same exact conversations that I had with a 15 or 20-year-old guy in Lynchburg, Tennessee, I have the same conversation with Paul Rosenberg or Aaron Lewis or Dave Matthews, and it's all like kind of like it all kind of comes together where I'm like done like photo shoots for models and stuff. You ever see a model in a magazine? They're not clean shaven. They have a little scruff. And actually, because I've done these, is that you actually use like you fade to their jaw So they have a darker shadow here, and then it's faded out. And the same thing on the bottom. Like you see a male model where he's got scruff, but his Adam's apple is clean. Well, it doesn't grow that way.
Yeah.
Somebody did that, and that's what I do with like Dave Matthews and Aaron Lewis. Is I fade them in where it's dark on their jawline, and maybe a 1.5, and then a 1, and then a 0, and then bald, going both ways. So their jawline is darker, and that's a trick that I learned doing, male models.
And you've been, like I said, you've been all over the world, different heads, different faces to shade. And, it's been awesome talking to you and knowing your story. And, again, we live on High Street here, live at Boston Calling 2024. And, we're going to sign out, but, because you got stories for days. And we're going to have part 2, probably part 3, something like that. We're going to make it a series because right when you go on the road, you're going to get more stories to tell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I heard about you, I was like, I got to interview this guy. And thank God we were able to do it, man.
I love going over it. I love sharing the information, not only for, myself, but just sharing the information for guys. And I love being a part of this, and I love being, the history that I have with Sean Curley is awesome. To see what he's doing in this industry is amazing. I really think, like you said earlier, like the guys that are normally like kind of like in that weed game are not greatest at grooming. And I really think that really simple stuff, and if I can be a part of this and touch some of the guys in your industry, that's what I'm into.
I feel like what's going to happen next, we're going to have a pop-up at New Dia where you come through and chop up some heads. What do you think?
Yeah.
I think that'd be sick. First barbershop on the dispensary, let's get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think sky's the limit, honestly. And
I think it's about, just like you guys, I'm always amazed when I go to a place like that because the education that you get, right? I feel like that's the same thing. I want to be the education that you get. What are you looking for? What direction are you trying to go? This way or that way?
That's why I related so much to when you said that, because when I explain stuff to people at that store, I've been told, wow, you taught me so much. Now I know what to look for or ask for next time I'm here.
Yeah.
Because I tell people, stop thinking about THC percentage. Think about what taste you like. Think about terps.
Yeah.
Instead of, hey, it's a high number. Give me that. And now you educate the consumer. Now it makes your job better, and it makes that industry better in a lot of ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that doing more stuff like this, and just like I said, man, we're probably gonna do one of these in Nashville. Fuck it. They got Dominicans in Nashville. What's up?
Man. Come on down.
I'll be the first one. I'll come to
Lynchburg. We'll do the same thing with the master distiller.
Okay.
And we'll talk about whiskey and weed.
Okay, bet. Let's do it, man. Yo. So shout out to Steve, man. We're going to go spark something up. You know what I mean? Shout out to Collab Brands. Shout out to Laced. Shout out to Sims Barbershop. Shout out to Barber Authority. Anything else we missing?
No, we're good.
We're good, man. Yo, we're signing out. Let's get it.
Thanks, man.
Yo.
No shame.